ask you to put your, maybe she's on mute, turn mute, just in case. So, welcome to this panel discussion, which is titled Future of Work, Digital Transformation, and the Future of Our Economy. As I said, I'm Maurice and I'm a PR consultant with Cybernetics. The world will remember 2020 as a year that witnessed an unprecedented acceleration in digital transformation instigated by the disruption of COVID-19. Traditional work models no longer provide the agility, scalability, and resilience required by tomorrow's enterprises. The RCA that Cybernetics just signed with the University of Maurice is a perfect starting point for this discussion on the role of digital transformation on our work models and how should this translate into a stronger economy. Again, let me briefly introduce you to our panelists. You know two of them already. Professor Jerry doesn't need any more introduction. He's the Vice Chancellor of the University of Maurice since March 2017. And he has received various national and international awards and recognition. And I think we must really put to your credit, Professor, your efforts in, as you said, bridging the gap, building bridges between the academic world and the industry. I myself work with many industry partners, and I've seen most of them coming here at the university, namely Artemis, AMM, MCCI. So that's really to your credit. And thank you again for hosting this talk within the midst of the university. Dave also is, by now you know him, he's the Managing Director of Cybernetics. And as he said, Cybernetics has offices in Mauritius in Africa. He's also one of the past presidents of Afinic, and he has also served on the University of Mauritius Select. Thank you, Dave, for also making this happen. Diana Singh Jetchan is since 2018 the head of technology and digital transformation at IBL Group, one of the largest conglomerates of the island, with operations in 9 clusters and operations around 19 countries worldwide. That's a feat, really. She's a senior executive with over 20 years of experience and a proven track record in change management in technology and operations, amongst other expertise. As head of technology and transformation at the IBL Group, she leads the digital transformation program for the group with a roadmap of more than 450 initiatives over the past 3 years. That's simply amazing. Thank you, Dia, for having accepted to be on this panel this morning with us. And Marine Barnes, she's not with us physically, but digitally, so that's good. That's a good example of how technology helps us to move forward. She's the general manager of 2 leading platforms in recruitment, talent management, and sourcing, Meet Your Job and CareerHub.mu. CareerHub.mu is a digital marketing agency specialized in recruitment in Mauritius, with more than 70,000 followers on Facebook and on most popular online channel. CareerHub.mu is a player to reckon with within the HR industry. And Meet Your Job, if I'm not mistaken, a job posting platform consistently gaining traction. Through CareerHub and Meet Your Job, Maureen is able to identify and anticipate trends in the recruitment sector and shifts in the work landscape in Mauritius. Welcome, Maureen. So I will start by putting the first question to all panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, we are currently in the middle of a pandemic, which has brought our world to a stop. Our lifestyle, our work environment have changed. Besides the inevitable work from home challenges, what has fundamentally changed for you, for your company, or for your institution today? I'll start with Professor J.
Okay, I think it's working. I think we should keep the mask up. Right. Yes, what has changed for me and for my institution? I think a lot has changed. When we went into lockdown in March 2020, we had only 2 weeks of lectures remaining for the second semester of that academic year. So it was very easy for us overnight to switch to online delivery to complete the 2 weeks training or the 2 weeks lectures that we had to deliver. Well, we could do that overnight. And, people did it mechanically, but didn't realize that if we hadn't invested into a new credit system in 2018-2019, we changed our old credit system to what we call the learner-centered credit system, which is a lot about, of course, outcome-based teaching and learning, outcome-based programs, but also a lot of technology embedded. And during that year, 2018-2019, we provided a lot of training to our staff for online delivery, for going through Google Classroom, etc. So that was extremely helpful. We were at that time not conscious that maybe one day we would be having a pandemic. But when the pandemic came, it was more or less natural to switch immediately to online delivery. But people didn't realize that we were able to do so because we were prepared. Had we not built, the necessary system, had we not invested into the necessary technologies, it would have been extremely difficult to do that. So we were able. However, I should not say that everything was perfect. Of course, we encountered problems. Our lecturers in IT, in mathematics, overnight was very difficult for them to start, doing their lectures. So they requested for more equipment. We had to invest into purchasing tablets where they could write easily their formulae or their equations and so on. So we had to invest. Then after the 4-5 months that we went through the pandemic, we started reflecting on making digital transformation at the center of our objectives at the university. So it's important for me to say at this stage that universities have been investing into online delivery for the past 30 years. It's not because of COVID that we all of a sudden jumped to online delivery. We were doing online delivery since the 1990s. At the university, 110 modules were delivered until the pandemic online. So we were doing that. The pandemic has accelerated, that transformation. When we started the year in the 2020-2021 year, the second semester has been delivered totally online. The first semester was delivered on a blended mode. The new academic year, 2021-2022, will start on the 15th of November, will be fully online for lectures. Tutorials will be done on site. A set of tutorials, not all tutorials, because it's important also to give the student the feeling that they've done something new, right? They move from the secondary to the tertiary sector. This is something different, and it's also important in our jargon to encourage peer-to-peer learning, right? Peer-to-peer learning is also beyond just technology usage. People need to meet and discuss projects, discuss things, So we are trying to embed all this into what we're doing. I'll probably, as we move along, say a few more things on how we view digital transformation. Okay. But I think yes. I'll give the chance to others.
I'll ask Dia now to take the answer.
This one works, yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, so IBL being such a large group, we are very diversified, so businesses are very different. So as Viv was saying earlier, offshore and services companies, overnight, they could start working remotely. Some essential services could not by the nature of their business. Winners, MedActive in the healthcare services, couldn't really, but I must say we invested in technology since a few years. We're using Microsoft Office 365, so all the video conferencing, email, etc. was already available, and people could start working remotely. A lot of pressure came on the IT support teams because they had to equip all employees overnight so that they could continue working. And at some point, we started having shortages of equipment. Laptops today is a big problem. We have a worldwide shortage of laptops. So with the disruption in the supply chain worldwide, it is an issue today, so we have to stock more. I mean, the way we've worked has really changed. Business continuity has come top of mind now. We need to have plan A, plan B, and even plan C because COVID cases are still there. We have team members getting contaminated, and we have to have backup plans all the time. So the way we manage business has completely changed today. And even transformation projects. I mean, I was completely impressed by winners, which with the management, who have been able to implement a new system during the pandemic, completely remotely, with a service provider based in France, conducting training with all the shops, with all the people in training rooms remotely. So, I mean, we have really accomplished extraordinary things during the pandemic, and it's not going away soon. So the way we manage teams as well has changed. There's a lot of one-to-one interactions, much more today. A lot of empathy that needs to come in because people are isolated. So we need to be in touch much more often, need to check in with people because everyone is isolated. So in a few words, this is the impact that has been brought. But with the drive of technology and digital transformation around the world, the technology landscape and the landscape of service providers has also changed. So there's a lot of acquisition and mergers going on in the sector, and even engaging with service providers has changed today. When we do due diligence with service providers, we need to go much deeper, understand their strategy, because overnight their strategy can change. So that's about it from me.
Thank you. I like the way you spoke also of empathy, because finally we stay human at the end of the day. And Marine, can you take the question? What has fundamentally changed for you at Career Hub and Meet Your Job? Besides, of course,
Yes.
working from home.
I would say that 4 things have changed for us. Firstly, the obvious one was working from home. Working remotely has been very easy for us because we had already the right tools, but I think we didn't really trust that way of working. But the pandemic proved us that it improved the well-being of our teams and also their productivity, and it really went smoothly. So today we do flex office, which works very well. Secondly, the pandemic allowed us to attack the international markets. Recruitment is a service that companies could not imagine executed remotely before. But the pandemic has changed everything, and we benefited from it to widen our international portfolio and conduct recruitment from here in Mauritius for Occidental countries, for instance. The third point is the digitalization of our processes. Unfortunately, we had to lay off 30% of our teams in 2020, and during the recovery in 2021, we had to learn to do as much with fewer resources, and this went with digitalization of our processes, using more tools for digitalize our sourcing, for instance. And finally, our way to manage change also. with much more transparency. We had to gain back the confidence of our teams during the crisis, and this went through transparency, being really honest about what's about the turnover, about the objectives, and the way forward. So, and we are still very transparent today, much more than we used to be before.
Okay. Thank you, Marine. That's very interesting to talk about transparency as being one also a key metric also in this changing world. I'll go now to Professor Jerry. As I said, you've been building bridges with the business communities and local industry champions, namely through your 2 annual innovation weeks, which I think are really gaining traction also. Could you walk us briefly through your strategy to aligning the UOM to the future of work, to the future of Mauritius? How are you aligning? How is the university aligning to the future of work?
Yeah. Our mission at the university is to build the human capital, as I said. So we need to train our students in such a manner that they are also that they can more easily adapt themselves to the world of work. So we're trying to not only impart knowledge to our students, but also building the right skills that they need. And that's why it's important for us to work with industry, because it is through internships in industry, it is through working on real problems with industry that our students will be able to get the necessary skills. Knowledge, skills are very important, but we're also putting a lot of emphasis at the university on inculcating the right mindset to our students. That is very important. We try to get them closer to all those concepts of sustainability, of regeneration. That's very important for our students. Not only to build the hard technical skills, but also those soft skills that are required. In other words, we try to get our students more employable, and this is a concept which has changed a lot. In the field of universities. Universities were there to provide knowledge, but now universities have got to provide knowledge and ensure that the students are employable. Mm-hmm. And we've got metrics that will judge universities on their performance in terms of employability. So that's a key element. We also engage more into research. So we are putting a lot of emphasis. We have created a doctoral school, and we have putting a lot of effort into attracting students into research. That's very important. We have about 220 doctoral students. To do better, we need to double. But that's a huge problem because, as Viv rightly mentioned earlier, we're having less and less students coming to the university. So how do we do that? Should we attract talents? Should we bring in more people from other countries? Singapore has got a much higher percentage of talent than we do in our country. So we should attract talent. Building bridges with industry is important. As I said, it's about connecting the dots. There's no way we can do things differently. So we need to work on real problems. Industry also has to realize that if it doesn't invest into building the kind of linkages with universities, they might not be in the long run competitive. So it's a matter of also their survival, not just the survival of the university. And if we can all put our heads together into doing things for enhancing the lives of people, that is also very important. So if you put all this together, we are just connecting dots, and we are trying to get our country on that innovation path, which is extremely important. If we do not put our efforts on innovation, it might be very difficult for a country to sustain. To sustain not only a living, and things are getting very hard. We've said it. We got to do more with less. That's the motto. You know, more with less. So the equation is a tough one, and unless we join hands and minds together, I don't see how we can do much better than others. And I always say that we have the same number of geniuses in our country as we have in other countries, but because of the smallness of our population, we have much less than a country like India, for example. They got millions, and we got a few. So I don't think we should rely too much on having geniuses, but we should rely on building the kind of ecosystem. And this is exactly what we've been doing at the university. Build the ecosystem. Might not be seen like that, but it is exactly what we've been trying to do. We've been trying to build that ecosystem, and hopefully that will be, the right choice.
I can assure you from what I see with my other clients, being myself working with many companies, the role that university is playing is being seen. The way that you're building the dots, connecting the dots with industry leaders is being seen. I can reassure you about that. And also,
thank you very much. We'll get you the check later.
Yes. It's really because I see it. I see it.
No, I was joking.
And and also from what you say, it's also a matter of our own survival as a nation and as an economy. This is what we're talking about. I'll pass the mic now to Viv, who's been also very encouraging to do this, very, very adamant to do this talk. Viv, what are the challenges that you see for Mauritius today to sustain our economic growth? And what part can IT service providers like yourself, like Cybernetics, can play?
I think IT service providers is an essential component of that ecosystem that the Vice Chancellor just mentioned. And we, at the end of the day, we are here to service the operators of the economy. But I think there are a number of things also that we need to take into consideration that, in my opinion, need to happen in order for us to thrive. I like to say that no one gets rewarded for inventing the wheel. It's been done thousands of years ago. But there is certainly merit to use the wheel, And what I'm trying to say is that let us say we succeed our next phase of transformation of our economy in moving rapidly into more innovative products and services, into moving up the value chain. Then we have to imagine that for all this work that is being done, companies investing in R&D, universities contributing, bringing more research students into R&D, if we are successful, that will lead to a pool of innovative services and products that will become available. But then we have to create an environment to create a demand for those services, which means that we have also to prepare the population and the government to receive, to be willing to try change. Because change is always hard, And one of the things which is close to my heart is that I think we have the recipe to succeed in that next phase of transformation. But sometimes we are our own worst enemy, in the sense that those companies who need those services, and the government as well, they tend to seek it outside. Why? Because external service providers are more well established, they've got more experience, they've got a track record, whereas choosing a local one might involve a risk. But if we are not willing to take that risk, then we will never be able to, we will kill innovation, because otherwise it will not be sustainable. And that's another key word that I'm using from what Professor Jerry said. We have to be able to create the demand for those services, even though sometimes it might lead to some failure. Okay, we step back, we refine, we fine-tune, and we move forward. So I think that's the key message for me.
Thank you, Viv. So innovation has to start here.
Yes.
has to start here. I'll go to Dia now. Going digital is probably something we hear when we speak of businesses preparing for the future. But in real life, sur le terrain, what are the biggest challenges for an organization embarking on a technological transformation journey? And also, how do you overcome those challenges?
I could spend hours talking about this because this is my day-to-day, but I'll try to be short. I think for me, digital transformation, the most important word in digital transformation is transformation before technology. It's about people, it's about the mindset of people, like Professor Jerry just mentioned. We're really transforming the way people work, the processes that people conduct, the way we interact with customers, the way customers interact with our organizations. So it's all about people before thinking about technology. And there's a real need for a change of mindset right from the top of the organization. And this takes time. And in businesses, we are always, looking for the P&L, looking for results, and that's a real journey that we need to take the business leaders through, even the board members, the shareholders, because it's a long-term game. It's a long-term game because we need to invest not only in technology, but in the people. We need to train them, but also we need to upskill them. We need to make them more digital literate. We all assume that we just put technology in the hands of people and they'll start using it. But it's a real journey. It's about and the fact that the technology landscape is changing so much and so rapidly that people simply can't keep abreast of all the evolutions that's happening. So people need to be accompanied along the way. And how do we overcome these challenges? It's simple in a way. We involve the people right from the start. It takes more time. It's just not merely a technical implementation. It's really building the solution with the users, with the customers, with the employees, with the management. And that we really need to continue reinforcing change management in all the projects that we do, and this is a real focus for us on all the projects. Right from initiation, we start embarking everyone in the journey, and along the way, we test things. We don't simply go big bang anymore. We test things. We put the technology in the hands of the people, make them test it, and sometimes they fail. Sometimes the technology fails, and we start again. So it's a real change from, I think, past 10, 15 years, where it was about just implementing technology. Today, it's about how we bring value to the people who are using technology. And that's very important to embark people on this journey, because there's also the fear of being replaced by technology. And that's a real fear that needs to be addressed. But that also means that companies need to invest in upskilling the people, in more value-added tasks. I mean, Viv mentioned RPA, robotic process automation. Things like simple business process outsourcing won't exist in a few years. So people need to be prepared. And I think this is where industry, universities, government need to work together on national programs, because we need to prepare our people for the future.
So it's interesting when you speak both of organization being ready, but also the people being ready. Of course, Viv, you can answer this. You are all allowed to to react after.
No, I would just like to make a comment on something very important that I think that Dia has mentioned, and I would just like to re-emphasize in the digital transformation strategy. Failure has to be an option.
Yes.
If failure is not an option, people will be so scared of innovating that they will stick to what they are comfortable and what they know, and that will actually kill innovation. But the important thing is, of course, failure is an option, but you plan for it. There was a
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Julie. Would you like to add on that?
I would also stress on that three-pronged approach. In fact, what Dia has said is exactly what we're trying. I mean, the approach we're using at the university is that three-pronged approach of not only looking at the tools and the technology, we're looking also at the processes, but importantly at the people. You would imagine that you can do easily in getting people into using technology or working from home in the field, in a company, and the situation is much more difficult in a university setup because of privacy, of data sharing, and all these problems that we encounter. So putting emphasis on people is extremely important, and I can say we're not yet there. We're not yet there because it's not. We cannot impose on people to work from home if they do not have the necessary equipment to do that. And so we're doing it during crisis time, but it's not something that we can impose on people. So we have to review everything.
Yeah.
I'd just like to add one last element, which is one of the most important elements, is the leadership. It starts from the top, and the leadership. I mean, we are requesting a lot more from leaders today. It's not about running the business, ensuring that the P&L is healthy, but also driving the transformation. And it's about walking the talk, being involved, and this is where digital transformation is a success. The leadership, sponsorship, the involvement, the engagement, and it has to be consistent along the journey, and that's very important.
Okay, thank you. I go now to Marie. Can we see Marie? So Marine, our panelists have paved the way for your question because they have all been talking about human capital, change, and people. So all this change that we're talking about, this transformation, all this cannot happen without the right skills and capabilities, without the right mindset and the right leadership. Are our students, our workforce, and companies ready for this transformational journey?
The younger generation is much more connecting than the previous ones, for sure. So digitizing processes will be much more obvious for young people entering the labor market than the one that have been there for a long time, and those for whom long change management procedures must be carried out. But in this sense, the young generation should drive innovation, and this is where sometimes the problem lies. Young people entering the labor market often hide behind their diplomas and academic baggages, but do not sufficiently capitalize on what should be their strengths, which is agility and innovation. The difficulty for companies today is twofold. Firstly, some very demanded skills, such as technical skills, are still rare on the Mauritian market, although this is set to change with the increasing enrollment of students in tertiary ICT studies. But what companies regret the most among young graduates today is the lack of operational readiness of students. An academic background is good, but soft skills are just as important, and the future of work, in my sense, really lies in those soft skills, which are professional curiosity, self-learning, team spirit, the ability to take initiatives and think outside the box. Those are really the skills that will enable the innovation, which is essential to make Mauritius a competitive country in the professions of the future. And to develop those soft skills, as we all said, as Professor Nanjai very well said earlier, nothing is more important than creating bridges between the academic world and the world of work, which is done through that great project, the CRA project between the University of Mauritius and Cybernetics, but which can be done also via internships, work study, consulting project for private sector introduced in the study programs, etc. The more bridges we can create between the professional and the academic worlds, the better.
Okay, thank you. Maybe you would like to react to some comments from what Marina said? She spoke of, I think, we spoke of organizational readiness and also people readiness. What do you see?
Yeah, I think I fully support that. But there are certain things that can be learned on the bench of a university, and certain things that I think you need to nurture. Like, for example, the art of communicating clearly, about your work and your objectives. These are things which are extremely important in the commercial world, because eventually you're fronting the client and you have to be able to present your work, to defend what you've done, and eventually gain the confidence. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is, I think, which we need to nurture, is what I call the transferable skills that you learn. You might graduate in some kind of field in engineering, in science or computer science, and then you join the job market. But ultimately, a lot of what you've learned may not apply. But the key transferable skills are problem solving, communication, finding out about things. You get a problem, no one has tackled it before, you need to go and find out how to address it and how to solve it. So these are key transferable skills that the degree program will impart, and that will become extremely useful in your professional career.
Thank you. Marie, would you like to react to that?
Yeah, I don't want to say something like that. We don't learn useful things at the university. I'm sure. I'm 100% agree with that. It's just that we find out as a recruitment company that young graduates are often, they lack of protection on how it works really in the private sector, how it works in a company. They're very good at theoretical basis and things, but they're not really aware of how they can be of value in a company and how they can really help building something. And that is something we learn, I think, during projects that are really concrete.
Okay, thank you. I have been nearing the end of our discussion. I have one last general question to all panelists. As the saying goes, every crisis brings opportunities. Without any doubt, we know that our economic model needs to change today. And the question will go to each one of you. What are the opportunities that we should seize today as a nation, as an individual, or as a corporate or institution? What are the opportunities that we should seize today to build the future of Mauritius? I'll start by Dia.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've seen with the pandemic is the importance of becoming more self-sufficient. The disruption in supply chains, which is still happening now, and we are enduring the consequences, really need to make us think about self-sufficiency. And I know it's for example, agriculture is something that was hard at the time, but now technology plays a big part in that. I mean, just next door on mainland Africa, if you follow what's going on, agri-tech is becoming a real industry. fintech is becoming a great industry. Health tech is becoming another industry. And I think Mauritius has a great opportunity to tap into that, developing the capabilities around that, technical capabilities, data science, and I've seen the University of Mauritius now offering data science, mobile, full stack development. I think technology is a great opportunity for Mauritius, and why not export these capabilities on mainland Africa, which is today booming in technology. So I think ICT has great opportunities, and we see with Accenture, Ceridian, that the demand that's there today, it's a great demand, but I think there's also opportunity for smaller SMEs to develop capabilities that can be exported in Africa.
Thank you. I'll pass the question now to Marine. And she's on mute.
I was talking earlier about transparency. It was me about my team management and how we are more transparent with our people in our company. But I think one of the opportunity and one of the main challenge we have today is more transparency in terms of call for proposals and in the public sector here in Mauritius, and putting more transparency, allowing more players to be taken into account, giving the chance to the smaller ones, also to the startups, and not only the big companies, always big companies. And there have been some very interesting financing projects during the pandemic for companies working to change things during the COVID-19 pandemic. But I think we don't have enough transparency on where it goes, where that money goes, what people do with it, what has changed, and yeah, that would be for me the main opportunity Mauritius has, is with combining all the great companies. We have the big companies with the smaller ones, the startups, and make a good ecosystem out of it for innovation.
Thank you. Viv, what's your take on this question? What are the opportunities we should seize today?
Yeah, I think the opportunities that technology represent are both daunting and exciting. Daunting in the sense that there is a lot to do, but exciting in the sense that perhaps in the first time in our history, we will overcome a natural handicap that nature has inflicted on Mauritius since it existed, which is its geographical remoteness from major markets. And with the digital world, work has become borderless, wealth creation has become borderless, and it is also possible to enter the digital economy without heavy capital investment that has always been a problem for us. For example, we've developed, the only really strong manufacturing sector outside the sugar sector has been textiles, and we have not been successful in developing a broad industrial base because there's been natural handicaps to that. But for the digital economy, it relies almost entirely on grey matter, and that is something we have. Yes, we have a younger population which is decreasing, but I think we can address that by also opening up our borders and bringing in young people from overseas. I think we have to look at a landscape in the future where there will be not only Mauritians but also foreign workers who will be working here, not just opening our borders to foreign investment, but we also have to look at intellectual capital as having the same monetary value, or even perhaps even more,
Yes.
and attract those talents to work here, because we've got a lot of things that goes in our favor. We've got a pleasant working environment. People like to live here. We've got a good climate. It's a peaceful country. People are free to practice their religion. We have a certain level of freedom that we enjoy, and that can be an attractive value proposition for people working in gloomy London or Paris or in South Africa. So we have to think global as not just us, but we have to welcome others as well.
Thank you. Professor Julie, I'll let you conclude.
I think we should be able to write a dissertation on this topic. I would make it very simple. From my point of view, we need to put sustainable economy right in the center. And if we do that, we give us a long term, not just, I know that we've got Vision 2030, that was produced in 2017, I think, paper, which to my point of view is very materialistic. If you read, I remember reading Vision 2030. It's a lot of things that we can do. That makes me think of whether we should not sit together and all of us, not just some people, but in a very more democratic manner, and rethink the sort of economy that we want and the kind of progress that we want. That's why I say sustainable economy, because then we can look at sustainable energy, we can look at sustainability of the oceans, which are very important to our country. We can look at how we develop an innovation-based economy. We can look at various things that are very important for the economy. But then we can also look at things that bring people on board. What's the point of training people, giving them all the necessary soft skills and so on? But then when we look at Mauritius, and you see every Friday to Sunday night, you can't get a parking at Bagatelle or at some other places. Mm-hmm. What are we doing in terms of sustainable consumption patterns? When we look at, this is something close to my heart. When you look at the health sector, we are going right to the walls. In 2030, 30% of our population will be diabetics. 25% will be suffering from CHDs, CVDs, and another equal percentage suffering from hypertension. And do you know what is the basic there? It's about our sugar and salt consumption. So what are we doing? So putting, technology, all these things are very important. We need to put more technology, we need to do more digital things and so on. But if you're not getting the people who are healthy, who will be able to deliver, I don't think we will get there. So opportunities, yes, but we should not be just materialistic. It should be also looking at people. Yes. So if we are able to join these two together, I think 2030 or beyond 2045, or Africa says 2063, should be fine.
Yes, totally agree. Yesterday I was listening to a webinar on COP26 by McKinsey company, and one of the leaders was saying that innovation is not innovation unless it has positive impact. So that's the best we can wish for our island. May I maybe open the floor for questions if the viewers or online, do we have questions?
You have one.
Yes.
So maybe address to with respect to digital transformation. So we mentioned about digitizing all our processes, business processes. We use a lot of RPA, robotic process automation, and a lot of automation. We're even automating our customer relationship. So and there was mention earlier in the discussion about empathy. So I think human interaction, the human touch, will become a scarce resource. So in the business point of view, how do you reconcile the need for the human interaction that will become more and more scarce and with customer relationship?
So personally, in my team today, there are more people doing the change management and start using techniques like design thinking, empathy interviews with our customers before we embark on digital transformation. So this soft skills aspect in my team is there's a lot more focus than the technology in the end, because technology we can always work with service providers and get resources from outside, but the soft skills aspect become more and more important. And at IBL, we've also embarked on a human capital transformation a few years back. There's a digital platform being deployed, but in parallel to that, there's a real rethinking of the human capital management, the leadership attributes that people need to have in the future, and what are the soft skills that need to be developed, because this is the value add that we will bring in the future. The soft skills will be even more important. EQ will be even more important than in the past. So we're really working towards that across IBL today. And the third pillar, so we have three pillars: human capital, technology, digital transformation, and sustainability. So this is all coming together, and it will inevitably come together at some point.
Thank you. More question? No question online? No. So if there's no more question, I'd like to.
There's an online.
There's an online question, okay.
So there's someone asking, it is known that the gender gap in the tech industry is very prominent. This industry being booming, how are you planning to bridge this gap?
Maybe we will take the question. Yes.
I think, well, first of all, thank you for the question. The female population is 50% of our population, and it represents an enormous reservoir of talent. And I think it is set aside the social aspect of bridging the gender gap. I think there's a very strong economic incentive for companies to tap into the female workforce, but at the same time, perhaps we need to adapt our mindset and the working environment to accommodate the fact that female employees may go on maternity leave. They might, they have young children that might impact on their work, and we have to work around that. And I think that is also is an extension of the whole mindset, for example, of working from home. There is an aspect of it that perhaps we haven't touched on today, which is when you work from home, where do you draw the line between your personal life and the working life? Because sometimes you find yourself taking calls maybe during the time when you should be with your family having dinner, and sometimes those lines get blurred. And it certainly has a psychological impact, not just on the female employees, but on male employees. But sometimes employers need to realize, okay, you take a call with someone working from home. It's a female employee. She might have young children at home that will make noise in the background, or she might need to hold that person on her lap. So there are some disturbances that I think, as employers, we need to understand and adapt to.
Thank you. But I know within Cybernetics, some of your employees participate in all those workshops in tech. So you do encourage, I think, within Cybernetics, your employees to
Oh yeah, certainly. I think you can. We have quite a few female employees here, which I recognize in the audience, and I'm proud to say that our management, for example, is very balanced. We have half number of men and as many men as women.
Okay, great. So if there are no other questions, oh, great.
One more online question. So digital transformation and Industry 4.0 inevitably change the future of work, requiring a work transformation for an increasing digital economy and work environment. How do you know whether the digital transformation is working at your organization?
Yes.
So as I was saying, change management is integrated in the project management in our digital transformation projects. And we have metrics, actually. We have metrics that we measure employee engagement. So we try to use innovative ways of gauging employee engagement. I mean, depending on the context, for example, we had an implementation in the seafood sector, and most workers, I mean, they have tablets that they use. The forklift drivers have tablets, but how do we gauge engagement there? So we have post-its where people come and tell us, okay, are they comfortable with the change? Are they ready to embark? And so gauging employee engagement all along the way is one of the metrics. The other metrics that we use is adoption, of course. How much have they adopted the technology? How much of the processes are still manual? And in the end, there are business objectives. There are business KPIs that are set. The time that the processes take, do they take less time? The number of errors that usually happen. This is also another metric. So the change management is really a process through which we have metrics that we measure, and they are very concrete. And this is how we measure whether it's been a success or not. But it's not always black or white. There are also metrics that we can't really measure. I mean, the faces that you see when people really get it, people really get the benefits out of using technology. It's like a hurrah moment, a eureka moment when you see these faces. I mean, for our teams, my teams and me, this is the biggest fulfillment in the projects, where people embrace technology and really are gauging the benefits out of it. Thank you.
Another question.
There is one more question. So to add on the first question, actually, what is being done from a university level to motivate more girls or women to enroll in tech courses?
Yes, let me get some stats. At the university, if I'm not mistaken, at undergraduate level, we have 65% of female intake, female students, 65%, I think. At PhD level, I think it's about 52% female students, more female students than male. If we go to the engineering courses, it's more male students than female, probably linked to the nature of the work. If you are an engineer, you're probably more on site, etc. I'm not sure if this is the case at the IT level. I think at IT level it's more kind of 50-50. 50-50, yeah. I don't have the stats in front of me, but we have all the stats there. So if there is a problem at the recruitment in industry, it's certainly not our fault. I can assure you on that. So we're doing whatever we can. And we have many more female students in the field of social sciences or law management than we do in the engineering. More or less balanced in science, But what can we do more to attract students? I give you some stats. 5 years ago, we were having 10,000, 11,000 students applying to the university. This year, we have not more than, I think, applying to the university would be something around 4,000, right? But I'm talking of HSC holders. 5 years ago, we had something like 11,000. 5 years later, we have 7,000. Can you see the problem? So we are facing much less students having the HSC who can apply to the university, let alone those who go abroad. So that's a problem we have to tackle. How to address that problem? There is no immediate solution, right? This is about demographics, and we can't change it like this. And the equation is simple. The population is kept constant at 1.3 million. Aging population is increasing. So if the equation is kept constant, so somewhere we must be having less. So we have lesser of the younger generation. So we have to find ways and means to address the problem. And so what can we do to attract more girls to this university? We have not many solutions available to us. There is free tertiary education. Anybody can come to the university, so it's not a problem with a family. And I know the Mauritian family puts a lot of effort into education. It's certainly not at the level of the families. We are trying to attract more students from the international, that is from Africa or from Asia, by having dual degree programs. So if that is a way to contribute, hopefully we'll be able to attract more female students.
Probably it is also a question of role modeling. We know that in Mauritius there are also organizations like Women in South Africa that are here and will also give platforms to women who are intended to speak. So it's also about the question of role models. Maybe Marie would like to intervene on that, and then we close the discussion. Or if not, she's... Marie, would you like maybe quickly take on what is the landscape in technology? How is the in the tech field, and maybe if you've got a take on gender perspective?
For companies, I wouldn't say that companies tend to prefer recruiting female in the ICT industry because they want to have this equity, gender equity in the companies. But we all know that women are less represented in the ICT sector because they tend to enroll less in the ICT studies. But I think the question that was asked to the University of Mauritius is very difficult because it concerns cultural matters rather than attractivity or preferences that could the university do between men and women. Some studies show that even at home, women have less access to ICT than men. It's cultural, I guess. I couldn't say more than what has been said. It has to change from the bottom, from education at home. Women have to feel more confident in technology, and for that it means at school being educated to use computers, and I think it will change in the coming years as even in first years at school we use more technology than before, and women will feel more confident and then more attracted to that kind of study and then that kind of professions, I guess.
Thank you. I think this brings us to an end because we're nearly 12 now. And thank you for panelists for this very insightful discussion. Thank you, Marie, for making it even online. And thank you, Professor, again for hosting us. And wish all of you a pleasant day. What do I need to say? Oh, there are refreshments outside. Thank you, and thank you, Cybernetics teams, for this discussion. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have anybody to all?